Greetings and welcome to the 5th episode of Morrowind Modding Showcases. I'm your host Dark Elf Guy, and we once again have a lineup of 12 new mods for your viewing pleasure. Now before we get to all that, I'll briefly mention that I purchased a new mic and pop filter, so hopefully you guys will notice a better overall sound quality in this video than before. At least I really hope you do, otherwise I've wasted another $80 on useless recording equipment. Now in any event, the download links for each mod can be found below. So why don't we go ahead and get started with our popular mod of the week, which this week is Vvardenfell Solstheim, Tomb of the Snow Prince. Now this mod makes some pretty major changes to Solstheim, completely overhauling much of the terrain and settlements on the island. Fort Frostmoth, for example, now has a small village attached to it, along with new services and an overall much improved atmosphere. It's quite detailed with miscellaneous objects and containers strewn about here and there. The terrain is no longer flat and boring like the Solstheim of yore. Now you'll find mountainous peaks, ancient ruins, carved out rivers, cliffs and plateaus all over the island. The path to and from settlements is now much more scenic, but also much more treacherous, with roads hugging coastal cliffs. Perilous drops are just a few feet away from the trail. You'll find old stone bridges covering the gaps in the terrain, while rivers rush below. Not to mention canyons of glacial ice that weave their way through the landscape and reflect the rays of the sun. In this land of hidden valleys, you'll discover numerous secrets as well as beautiful scenery. There's all of this and much more to see in Vvardenfell's overhaul of Solstheim, the Tomb of the Snow Prince. For our house mod of the week, we have Rich's Blightwood Player Home. Blightwood Player Home is a simple looking abode out in the Ashlands with transportation to and from Morrowind. Though not much to look at on the outside, you'll find the interior is lavish with detail, fitting every nook and cranny with atmospheric items that really make you feel like you're living in an Ashlander setting, while also providing plenty of storage for the player to use. Blightwood Player Home is a truly lovely abode worthy of any Ashlander. This week's gameplay mod of the week is Abbott's Move or Take My Place. What this mod does is simple, yet extremely handy, as it adds a Take My Place topic to every NPC in the game. So if they're in the way, you can switch places with them. It even works for NPCs added by other mods, such as this one from Animated Morrowind. There's an additional feature where if you hold left alt on the keyboard, NPCs will move away a few steps on their own, as you can see here. This system can also be used, or rather abused, by enterprising thieves to move NPCs out of the line of sight and take whatever they want. But be warned that NPCs will move back to their original positions fairly quickly, so they may catch you in the act. For our town mod of the week, we have Relics of Ascadane. This mod adds the rather large town of Ascadane to the southern Ascadian Isles. You can sort of get an idea of its location by the city of Vvardenfell in the background. The city is composed of 3 primary districts: the Central Plaza and Marketplace, which you can see here, which has a number of shops, such as weaponsmiths, mages, and alchemists. Not to mention travel to and from Saran. There's the residential district, which is filled with a mix of lower and upper class homes. And there's the mining district, where the city's main industry, the egg mines, can be found. Not to mention some interesting architectural platforms. The town has a number of services, such as this Fletcher, for you marksmen out there. And of course it also has plenty of weaponsmiths, as I mentioned earlier, for those of you who use a different type of weapon. There's also a tavern, with the typical assortment of booze, patrons, and of course, what tavern is complete without a passed out drunk or two? There's also a number of quests involving simple but fun objectives for those who need a bit of an adventure in their lives. These quests vary in objectives, but they're all more or less dungeon based, and provide for a good distracting bit of fun. Here's one of the new dungeons included in one of these quests. It's rather dark and atmospheric, isn't it? You can see another one here. There's all this and much more to do in the newest town of the Ascadane Isles, Cerebral. Now, to complement our episode last week, which included an NPC called Hroth the Uber, our items mod of the week this week is the Sword of Hroth the Uber by Ascadane. This mod adds an NPC called Hroth and his companion Masteress, deep in an ancestral tomb. They're a rather unfriendly bunch and won't talk to you. This, of course, means you should kill them and take their sword. Serves them right. You can see here by the stats that the Sword of Hroth the Uber is quite valuable and powerful indeed. You can use it yourself, and it does look quite lethal indeed and sure to strike fear into your opponents. It is a very menacing blade. Or you could give it to Hroth the Uber from the Fetchers mod covered last week. He'll happily use it, though this doesn't necessarily mean that he'll be able to hit anyone with it, as you can see here. Our quest mod of the week is The White Wolf of Loken Mountain by Teutonic and Ema. The White Wolf of Loken Mountain adds a new landmass near Solstheim, with a quaint village overwatched by a large castle on the cliffside. The island itself is a decent size, and is highly detailed with little places to visit, like that lighthouse in the background. From the peaks of Loken Mountain to the forested valleys below, you'll find plenty to see and do here. Though it should be noted that Loken does conflict with Tomb of the Snow Prince that we showed earlier, but there's an easy fix for this, and you can find an online guide in the description below. You can get an idea of Loken's location from the map here. You'll find a lovely brewery on the island, along with a number of other services, and there's plenty of mead to buy. Naturally, you'll find a large mead hall, where you can pass the time and drink. A favourite Nord pastime. You may even enjoy a few long chats with the locals, provided you pay up with some beverages. And yes, this does go on for quite a while. There's also a main quest to be had here, involving a new chieftain and his conflict with a local wolf. This wolf is practically worshipped by the locals, and it has the chieftain on edge. As the story unfolds, you'll learn another side of the chieftain's tale, and it'll be up to you to decide who you help. Needless to say, there will be dungeons and fights involved. Not to mention plenty of tomb exploration. You'll get all of this and much more in this epic journey of superb storytelling of Loken Mountain. Next up is our landmass mod of the week, and this week we have Lazy Ghost Witchwood. Witchwood is a new island near Solstheim that contains a beautifully detailed forest. The road to this rich and scenic isle twists and turns through the trees, and a low foggy mist clings to the ground here and there, adding to a great sense of atmosphere. This is no simple woods though. It is believed to be hunted, and danger lurks just out of sight. Which is not to say that the island is uninhabited though. There's a small quest to be found here, and the Graveskeeper of Witchwood will warn you away from wandering too far at night. As you can see here, Witchwood is just west of Solstheim, and is completely compatible with Loken and the Solstheim overhaul. There are many mysteries and hidden secrets in Witchwood, but will you venture out into the dark unknown to find them? For our NPC mod of the week, we have Pirate Lord's Creatures version 11. This mod adds around 300 new creatures and 100 new NPCs in the game that you can now encounter in the wild, including friendly creatures like these Kryn. There are many additional passive creatures like these scattered around for you to find. You'll also find hostile creatures like this imp out on your adventures. Beaches have also become especially more dangerous, with creatures like this one and his meaty jaws. Not to mention a number of new kinds of crabs. Like this giant fellow, who has a disturbing number of eyes. Dungeons are also now filled with new creatures, such as this Morrowind. You can find a ton of new Daedra at Daedric's shrines now. Including seducers like this one. Likewise, Dwemer ruins now have a ton of new curious mechanical beings patrolling their corridors. Tombs have also been expanded with necromancers. Not to mention the occasional spider. And even giant floating fire skulls. These make up only a tiny portion of the total creatures added by this mod. This week's new meshes and textures mod of the week is Better Almalexia by Plankai. What this mod does is replace the model and textures for Almalexia. Here you can see how Almalexia looked before. And here you can see how she looks after the mod is installed. This goes for the warrior version of Almalexia as well. And even with the change in lighting, you should notice quite a few improvements. Next up is our underrated mod of the week, and this week we have Mana Uses Map Deluxe. This mod adds a quest to help an Imperial cartographer map out the island of Vvardenfell. As part of this quest, you'll trudge across the land, mapping road routes and other terrain features. Not to mention meeting with shipmasters to figure out transportation services and shipping routes. Your reward for all this work is a highly detailed map, showing all Stiltstrider routes, shipping lanes, roads, Imperial shrines, temples, and Mages Guild in Vvardenfell. It should be mentioned you can use an optional .esp to just get the map without doing the quest itself, if you prefer. For our Blast from the Past mod of the week, we have the Farmer mod by Josh. This mod adds farming to the game. You'll start out small with a simple shack farm. As soon as you started, you can join the Guild of Farmers and talk with your fellow agricultural associates. You can also hire farmhands, and they're paid on a weekly basis. You can always check their contract status to see how many days they have left. Once you get your farmhands back to your farm, you can set them to work to harvesting your crop right away. As well, you can extend their contracts, in case you forget to come back later and pay them. You can also ask to see their stats at any time. After a little time has passed, you can collect what they've harvested. When you're ready, you can buy neighboring plantations and have new crops planted. You'll also find that traveling merchants will randomly stop by your farm to buy any crops you might have. An alternative to hiring farmhands is buying slaves. They're more expensive at first, but they quickly pay off because you don't have to pay them week by week. They start out as inexperienced, As you can see here, their experience is marked as low. But after a while, they become more and more skilled at the job. Of course, one of the problems with slave labor is the potential for slave rebellions, if your slaves hate you enough, like this one does. You can hire overseers to manage your slaves, but do be careful not to work them too hard to avoid those pesky little rebellions of theirs. When you're ready, you can upgrade your plantation with a number of features. I went with a worker shack for now. And here you can see it's been built. With an interior that should keep my workers well rested. Now you can also hire guards, which are important because they'll protect against those slave rebellions, as well as bandit raids that can reduce productivity. If you don't like the guards available on a particular day, you can always come back later to see a whole new set as they randomly spawn. Guards will cost a different amount depending on their skill set, and they'll range from between 2,000 gold to 20,000 gold in cost. You can set your guards to patrol an area. Or, if you have one available, you can set them to stand watch at a guard tower. As you can see here. There's also pack guards that you can buy. And they'll go around and gather the harvest from an overseer so you can take it back to town. Assuming you want to, that is. I mean, there are traveling merchants, so it's an optional choice. Here's a fully upgraded plantation with a crash crop Hackalo. You can own up to 3 of these plantations like this, and this is quite possibly the best farming mod available from Morrowind. Our bonus mod of the week is Dwemer Loot by Poo Demon, otherwise known as Lucas. This mod adds around 40 new Dwemer items to the game that can be found in random containers in Dwemer Ruins. These items include a variety of new plates, lanterns, and coins. You'll even find new Dwemer probes and lockpicks. Here you can see a small handful of the new items to be found, including a variety of Dwemer coins that should make any numismatist happy. That's it for our showcases this week. You can find download links for all the mods shown here down in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next week. Goodbye.